next speaker is actually a remote speaker. He's from the United States, was not able to join us in person here, but he is leading one of the key companies in the BSV blockchain ecosystem. The company behind the CryptoFights game I mentioned in my opening presentation, FYX Gaming. They have generated huge amounts of transactions on the BSV blockchain. For comparison, the BTC chain sometimes does about 300,000 or 400,000 transactions a day. CryptoFights has been doing 1 million, and then 2 million, then 5 million, then 10 million, and even one day over the past few months, 20 million transactions by itself on the BSV blockchain, more than all of the major other leading chains combined. So that is a lot of transaction activity, but we're just getting started. Here today to talk to you about scaling games on layer 1, not on other layers, and why it matters. I'm very pleased to bring to our virtual stage the founder and CEO of FYX Gaming. Let's bring him on board. Adam Kling, how you doing, Adam? I know it's very early in the morning for you. Yeah, well, you've got a packed room here in Dubai waiting to hear you, and some of the great leadership of Dubai has just come into the room. So I will let you take it away and educate our world about why scaling games on layer 1 matters. Thank you.
Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks, everyone. So we're the maker of CryptoFights, and scaling games on layer 1 has become incredibly important. We've been in this since 2018, and I want to kind of start our journey there to kind of see where we've come from and where the future is on that. And so if we go back to 2018, I started looking at Ethereum. It was great at the time, had a lot of developer excitement. And I saw the ecosystem starting to develop after a game called CryptoKitties started making headlines. And during that time, it was just kind of these new concept of how blockchain gaming could look like. And CryptoKitties actually was doing so many transactions that started to cripple Ethereum network back in 2018. But what the cool thing was is that it was just this really innovative tech, and that kind of pulled me in, and we started the CryptoFights project. And so we spent, about a year trying to make that work. And what was so exciting about that is that it was very community driven back then. You had kind of this vested interest into that game. So maybe it was an NFT that you owned, or that CryptoKitty, for example, or you had some kind of financial interest, maybe because you want to see the game do better, because maybe your assets would go up in value. The other thing, like I mentioned before, it was very innovative. So you're on the cutting edge. It was something new. It wasn't kind of the old played out stuff that you're, used to been playing for a long time. And I've been a gamer my whole life. So I was always, I think gamers and crypto go hand in hand. And the true ownership, I think, was really interesting back then in 2018, because now you had this feeling of, this asset or this thing in a game is actually outside the control of that game or of that central entity. And so you could buy and sell in a marketplace. And then this decentralized concept was actually very interesting, because you kind of felt that, well, now we're kind of creating a life, like this new organism that could just exist perpetually on its own. And maybe the community could add on to it or modify it and kind of, do all these things. So it was a really exciting time back in 2018, and that's what pulled me in. Well, today, it hasn't gone that well. There has been a lot of scaling challenges. I think that I've been through Ethereum layer 1, and then we gone to kind of layer 2 solutions. And now we have all these new blockchains to operate on, and a lot of them are having problems. So let's put a kind of a question out there. If you are going to run a game and you're successful, and they have all of these kind of unproven blockchains running, you have a huge mega risk there. And so that was a really big issue. And I think we kind of felt that back in 2018 because of all the trial and error that we were doing. And we started looking at Bitcoin SV, and it was a very different way to think about how to develop a game versus the kind of the solidity and smart contract development on Ethereum. Now, some of the other kind of key points with this reality that we're in today is that a lot of the games don't actually really use the blockchain for gameplay. And I think that's very interesting to me, because a lot of them are focused on mostly NFTs, how they can deliver an NFT, how you can sell them in a marketplace and all that. But so what, right? I mean, we have this blockchain and this incredible technology, and it's not really being utilized. mostly because of the technology is very limited back then, or even today, actually, I should say. Also another thing that's been mentioned so far in the conference is that there's not really a great way to store data on chain. And so when we were one of the early adopters of a competing ecosystem, I won't name them, we were actually developing NFTs using their SDKs and APIs, and all of the pictures, the metadata, and all that was actually not on chain. We had to actually give URLs to the files. And I started thinking, well, you really just own a serial number at that point. And I was like, this doesn't feel right. And then they started moving to IPFS. And so there's kind of a lot of that I don't think a lot of the mainstream consumers of this technology really understand yet. As Jimmy mentioned, the fees and the processing times even are just not going to really cut it for a game or any kind of game industry. We need something like maybe below 100 milliseconds sometimes. And so they've essentially priced themselves out of the market, I believe, of the future blockchain gaming market. And they don't really do much. Like I said, with the NFTs, they're not really able to do a whole lot. I haven't seen a whole lot of innovation there. So one of the things I wanted to bring up is Axie Infinity. They were essentially the leaders of the market. Last year, as you can see here on the chart, they were very, very close to breaking 3 million daily active users. That's a big deal, right? They made over $1 billion last year. I thought that was incredible. They were the next big, EA Games or Ubisoft. Well, they got hacked. And that's kind of one of my key points here today is that they had to scale and they had to do it fast. And they started on Ethereum and they ended up creating a chain called Ronin. And they essentially moved everything over there. And as soon as they started doing that and I started understanding this more, I was like, they're really taking on the security of an entire network of their users. That means the full value of their assets, all of the trading, and so on and so on. And they actually started bragging about billions of dollars worth of value was, or market cap, I should say, of these items were on their own chain. And I was like, whoa, imagine being a custodian or an overseer of billions of dollars worth of value. They're taking the responsibility of a blockchain just for this single game that they had. Anyways, as you can see from there, they got hacked over $500 million. Actually, it was I think $623 million that was stolen. And they are on the downfall. I actually just looked up the numbers recently. They're less than 1 million daily active users now. So they've hurt their community. They have a huge trust issue. And I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, are they going to make it? They definitely made a lot of money to figure it out. But it shows you that, the actual core technology that you're using is extremely important for what you build, really anything that's going to be successful, right? And that's why we're all here is so we can do something big, right? So with CryptoFights, we've had a very, very interesting journey since we started on BSV. When we first launched, that was last year in the summer, we came on and we had this architecture that we needed to test, and we put it out in the market, and we got I think it was about 550,000 transactions a day, and we were like, wow, that's incredible. But by doing that, we realized that the infrastructure to support a lot of these games, especially at this scale, is extremely difficult, and it's very painful to figure out exactly how all of these things are going to work. And so we came down and we started to retool again, and then we started hitting the millions and millions, and then I think we had to come down again. And so we've been basically up and down all this time, really trying to figure out how do we really scale this thing? Because again, like I point out with Axie Infinity, is that if we can't scale, then no other game is going to scale. This whole industry has to have a solution like this, because they're going to these layer 2 solutions with these security issues. And I don't think, really any major games going to, I think, really pay attention much longer unless a really elegant universal solution comes back. And I also want to pay attention to the actual data that we're putting on chain. It's actually a little bit over 3. I think we actually spiked up to 10 gigabytes, if I'm remembering right. And so we start to think of the blockchain as really this input-output system that we can use for games instead of a multiplayer server. And so that's really major. We also see here on the registered users is that we actually have over 200,000 users, and that's actually with the impediment of kind of coming up and down. And so once we really kind of crack this code of being able to scale to 20, 30, 50 million a day, even to 100 million BSV transactions a day, really the sky's the limit with how big our user base can go. And so just some key takeaways here is never sacrifice the security of the chain you're on or how you're doing things, because it's going to bite you long term, as I showed with Axie. And I also think, that a lot of the projects that we see are really focused on NFT sales, not really true innovation. It's kind of a big cash grab right now. And your community is key. They are essentially investing either through their time, through the NFTs, through the token or whatnot into your project. And so there's this more ownership feel that they have. And so, I asked myself, why haven't the big studios really embraced blockchain yet? And there's a big bad reputation for mainstream gamers with NFTs. That's another cash grab. And it's also very early, as I kind of said with the scaling, is that it's just not ready for prime time. Now, there is some big studios going to sell NFTs, you guessed it, but they're not really doing much else than that I've seen so far. And so how can FYX really transform this game industry? And so one of the things that I think is very interesting is the new experiences that we can create. And so one of the things I was thinking before this presentation is maybe, for example, you have to do something incredible in Haste Arcade to unlock something in CryptoFights. We're using a shared database here. And so I can see from my game what you've done under your identity and other applications or other things. Maybe you donated to Red Cross, and I'm going to let you into a special area of the game. For esports, it's actually incredible what we can do here, because we actually have the ability to have game integrity. We have all of the data, all of the moves that are essentially immutably stored by the identity of the player, and this solves the collusion and the betting that happens in esports currently right now. And I was extremely focused on that for the last couple of years about how this can solve. And on the player-owned assets, we have actually, this is kind of the most obvious, that obviously everyone can own their own NFTs and the assets of the game, but we can actually transform those NFTs into something else in that game. Now, CryptoFights 2 is our next major release that's going to come out later this year. It's going to have an expansive economy that is going to be way, way bigger than what we see now. Consider what you see now really a big proof of concept. And we're going to prove that BSV can scale to numbers that we thought are just impossible, I think, a year ago. And then we want to bring mass user adoption. We want to really have a game that has hundreds of thousands of daily active users, if not into the millions of daily active users, to show that this is ready for prime time. Now, I'm going to go quickly because I'm running out of time over some of the new features here. Item crafting is our big new addition to the game, where it essentially unlocks a whole new item meta of the game. We had kind of a simple, you had a weapon, you had an armor, or you had an accessory. And now we actually have a weapon or an armor that can actually be created through components or ingredients that can make it more powerful and actually make it expandable with the socket. As you see here, this is our blacksmith, and this is going to be a 3D animated character. And once you take it to the blacksmith and create that socket, you actually have the ability to get more ingredients from playing the game through PvP or the PvE mode to find all of these magical ingredients, as well as scrolls that you can actually take to the enchanter that can then create these magical spheres that you can then place into your weapon and create this whole new kind of play style that you couldn't do before. We have portal fragments that are essentially kind of the in-game item that you can charge a portal to actually earn the tokens that are used for playing in these arenas. So pretty much the PvP, the PvE, you're going to be spending FYX tokens on, and then charging a portal. You can actually take a little bit of that, those token revenues. We also have our leaderboards. Is kind of the end game here. Is the whole point of kind of going through all of these hoops is to be placed on the leaderboard. And when you do that, you actually have the ability to earn all of the revenue before that is coming from the players trying to place here to earn more tokens, to buy more things, to become more powerful. We're also going to have prizes and a lot of tournament events as well, hence on esports. And there's a lot more here. I didn't have time to really go through it, but if you check out our white paper, it's whitepaper.cryptofights.io. You'll see a lot more about what we're up to and what we're going to come out with. And if you have any more questions, here's my contact information. And I really appreciate the opportunity to present here in Dubai. Thank you.
Adam, sorry you can't be here, but I want you to know there's a lot of excited people in the audience looking for you. We can't wait to see you at our next event somewhere in person. So good luck, and congratulations again on baby over the last couple of years. So, all right, let's give a big round of applause to Adam Kling. We're going to continue our journey with more sessions about the power of the BSV blockchain, massive scaling of Bitcoin's protocol.